Welcome and thank you for being with us today on New Teacher Talk. I'm Dr. Beth here with Dr. Anna. This is a very special episode for us, and we think you're going to love it too. What you are about to hear came out of something truly wonderful, the 6th annual Building Inclusive Community Conference, where a remarkable group of educators gathered to do what the best educators always do: think deeply, speak honestly, and learn from one another.
We were so grateful that 5 of those educators agreed to sit down with us and share their voices. Kirsten Manthei, Jennifer Cooper, Bernadette Garcia, Asia Jones, and Sean Kennedy. Together, they represent a rich tapestry of experience spanning multiple school districts, grade levels from elementary through secondary, and roles ranging from classroom teachers to a coach, a career changer, and even a school board member. Each of them brought something unique and irreplaceable to the conversation. We used a roundtable protocol that we love for the way it honors every voice in the room. Our guests each chose the questions they felt most moved to respond to: a warm-up, a core question, a perspective-shifting question, and a future-focused question. It's a beautiful structure, and we've included the full protocol as a link in the show notes. We hope you'll consider using it yourself in your classroom, your school, or your district to spark the kinds of conversations that matter.
As you listen, we invite you to sit with the questions yourself. How might you respond? What would the educators in your own life say? Pay special attention to what these experienced, passionate educators have to say to new teachers about building truly inclusive spaces. Now, let's pull up a chair and join the conversation.
What does being heard mean to you in one sentence?
I'm Jennifer and I'm a job coach, and being heard to me means that when I'm working with the students, that if I'm having an issue or what I'm being successful at, that I have people around me that can respond to that I can work with, my community at school. That's what being heard means.
I'm Bernadette. I am a fourth year teacher in special education. Being heard to me means being seen, being validated for being present in that moment. And I'm a Leo, right? But I'm a very quiet and introverted Leo. So being heard doesn't always mean I have to say a word, but you can kind of know what my intent is. Being seen even in silence.
I'm Asia Jones. I am a second grade teacher. This is my 4th year. I would say being heard just means to me like being collaborative, celebrating all of our wins as a team, but also celebrating some of our losses as well, because we've learned from those losses and we don't need to nitpick those losses. So celebrating each and every one of us as a cohesive unit.
My name is Kirsten Manthei, and I'm a teacher and parent at Pines Township. And for me, being heard really has to do with perspective. And I feel that when we are truly listening and, valuing everyone's perspective, even if it's different from our own, and we're allowing ourselves to try to understand that, I feel like that's a big part of being heard.
Sean Kennedy, board member. For me, being heard is just an acceptance, right? You're part of a group, a small group like this, a team at work, a family. If somebody is listening to you, it doesn't mean that they have to agree with you on everything, because we are different people, but if they're hearing you, they're accepting you. And once somebody accepts you, then you can collaborate, you can work, you can do things together, you can accomplish things.
What is one barrier that keeps people in your school from feeling like they belong?
My first thought, again, I don't have an answer to this, I'm interested to hear what the group says, is students just don't know what they don't know. They don't know what's out there for them that they might be interested in, that they can join a group or a club or a sport or something that they're just not aware of. This school is 2 campuses, it's 4,000 kids, it's 500 staff. There's a lot going on here. Things can get lost. I know we have technology and we have apps and emails and things that we can reach out to kids, but are we getting in touch with every kid in this school about everything that's going on? Because there might be just one thing that they say, yeah, that's something I'm interested in.
I'll kind of chime in there. When I hear that question, it's interesting because as a teacher here and a parent here, my first reaction is how teachers might feel like they don't belong within our culture. And then, the students, we take surveys every year, staff, students do, and, our belonging, I mean, we're at, I think like 51%, 52, like, it's not where we want it to be. It's definitely getting better. But I know from that staff perspective, and I think this extends to students too, there's a barrier of just lack of connection. And I think, again, it's a very big school and we have a huge staff, and some staff commute between campuses and some staff have 4 classrooms. And so I think there's a lot of people who feel isolated. And I know as a teacher, I see a lot of students who they don't really talk much and they're kind of isolated, and it's very easy to forget about that, I guess. So I think that is a big challenge, is building those connections so that people feel safe to try joining a club or to try, coming to a social gathering.
I will piggyback off of both of those. Like your community sounds like it's a lot larger and more robust than the community that I come from. We are a single district school, so it's like 130 teachers versus 500 staff members, right? And I think that one of those barriers might be there has to be a trust between teachers and staff members in order for students to look at those people and say, oh yeah, okay, like we can now connect and things don't fall off, because you might have thousands of students, but each of them comes into a classroom and where they're a part of the community. So like if teachers are trusting each other and building those communities within the school, I think that the students are more likely to want to engage in those things and like help with those barriers. One of the barriers that I see from our smaller community is like preconceived notions, which I think piggybacks off of that, like, right? So if my demographic is the students with emotional and behavioral disabilities, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want them in my space because this is what I've heard or what, right? Yeah, so like I think that one of the barriers would be once you build that community and that trust, how do we maintain that dignity of those around us, the other staff members, students?
I think it's communication, respect. I think we have a small school, and I think if we could just learn to communicate and respect, because there's so much that we don't know about each other. And if we all want the best for the children, but there's so much that you don't know about a person sitting next to you that if you would just communicate and take the time to know about that person, and that we want the same end result, but you don't take the time to learn about that person. If you take that time to know about that person and what they're going through or who they are, there's so much more to them. They may have a degree. They may not need that degree. They may know more about that student and what they're going through. And you can get to that end result quicker if you just give them the respect and that communication. We can accomplish so much more if we just do that one simple thing. I mean, we're putting up our own roadblocks. Just communicate with that person, respect them, and you'll get that.
I agree with that, and I think that's in all aspects of life too. It's not just the school. It's I've noticed with my own children, there's a lot of times where everybody is in the living room or something, and everybody's like this, and I'm looking around. Why is everybody looking at their phone? Why aren't we talking to each other, watching, whatever it is that we're watching? And you go out to a restaurant, and you see a family at a table, they're all sitting there, and nobody's communicating, nobody's talking, nobody's interacting.
Right.
I think it was very interesting on one thing that you said, because again, this question, I didn't know what the answer was. I didn't have any preconceived barriers, but interesting that if teachers feel that way, then they're going to convey or maybe not convey a certain sense of openness and community into the students. So it sounds like it has to start at the top, right?
Yeah.
The board, the superintendent, the principal, the admin staff, it needs to start there. So then it starts to funnel down to the teachers, that funnels down to the rest of the staff, that funnels down to the students and everybody else. That was profound to hear that a teacher might feel that way, because I'm in here thinking about just the students. Where again, 500 staff, 150 staff, a lot of staff that we need to be cognizant of too, and how they feel on a day-to-day
think too that we're supposed to be the example for the students, if you're not even doing that to each other, right?
Right.
And we're supposed to be teaching the students, if the students treated us the way we treat each other.
Oh, and they see exactly what's true, right?
Mhm.
Even in second grade,
They see it.
they see it.
Yeah.
Receptive.
Yes, they're sucking it in like a sponge.
They are.
They know.
Well, it's interesting. So I teach communications and required course here, interpersonal communication, and we teach about listening and speaking and, essentially the conversation. But it is interesting because like what you both just said, our students pick up on which teachers are just more connected to our community. And I mean, our school is definitely trying to combat that from the top down. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's interesting. Like, we have to be so aware of the culture we're creating. And then if we're expecting students to feel like they're a part of it.
Let's select a perspective shifting question. One of the things that I heard during the last discussion was the fact that we're thinking about how do we create cultures and make students feel like they belong. And you teach second graders and you're able to curate that day for them.
Yeah.
But what about when students are in a high school, when they're going from one class to another class to another class, when each classroom has its own culture or those expectations?
Yeah, and even, that would be the hidden curriculum as well, not just the cultural expectations. The kids essentially are code switching every period. And when in regards to hidden curriculum, there are all these things that are just implied. And a lot of students don't know that, and I'm thinking specifically about like our neurodivergent population. And they may not know that teacher A expects, MLA formatting and all of this, and teacher B, you're allowed to get up and walk around the room. And we see a lot of challenges with that. And again, with like almost 500 staff, or I don't even know how many, there's not a consistency, in policies and expectations. And especially here at South, it's really hard for the kids.
So would we like to choose the perspective question? What would it look like if your voice truly influenced decisions in your school? Or would we like to look at question number 1? What is something you wish decision makers asked you before making a policy or change?
2 would cover more broadly and be able to help with the number 1.
All right, and let's go ahead with question number 2. What would it look like if your voice truly influenced decisions in your school?
This is a hard one because I guess I do have a somewhat of a powerful voice, right? As being on the board, I guess we're the beginning and the end of a policy that I guess I do feel as though mine is heard. I'm interested to see where everybody else kind of comes in.
So you have a built-in platform for
Yes.
your voice where not everyone does.
Great point. We have open discussion. We have a committee of the whole meeting in the beginning of the month, and then we have a voting meeting at the end of the month. So there's plenty of time for me to voice my opinion on something and get out there that, yes, I have a platform. Does everybody feel as though that they have that? And if not, then, okay, what do we do to create that platform? Because again, as we said on the last question, all right, it starts with the top, right? If whatever we're doing there should be emulated throughout the school system all the way down, because if it's working here, then it should hopefully start working and move down. So
I guess that's where my ferocity comes out, and you guys will see. Like, I know that, like, I feel like we always hear teachers say, like, well, admin is so far removed. They moved into admin positions or board positions to remove themselves from the classroom, and they don't know what's going on in the trenches. They don't know what's happening, right? So if, as an educator, my voice truly influenced those decisions, would it make me feel more safe at school? Would it make me feel like my voice mattered, right? I don't like in any way feel like calling anybody out, but I'm like, as a woman, I think that we search for a long period of time to find a place where our voice matters. So like some people are the wake up and they are given those abilities, but some people wake up in silence all the time, right? And as a person of color, as a woman, I feel like when I'm in my classroom, that is my space. But outside of that classroom, it's like, how much value is my voice and how is that? And I go to board meetings and I attend different things in region and union levels and things like that. But I feel like sometimes my voice is minimalized by not having enough support from underneath to come up. So we keep seeing this trickle down, but really it needs to be a movement up and like something to uplift and hold those people that maybe their voice has been a little bit quieter.
And to add on to that, I love everything that you said, but I really like how you talked about like from like the bottom up. And I know as a teacher here, I think a lot of the staff feels that their voice doesn't matter, so they kind of don't try or they don't engage. And like we definitely have to really push to like get the teachers involved in like faculty association. And I see your side of it where I feel like it's almost like a bottom up effort where we have to communicate that we can have a voice and we need to not just shut our door and do what we do in our class. I think the shift, at least here, would be if the teachers, the staff are articulating thoughts, feelings, ideas, if then those were better recognized by the top. And I think, you all do a great job of listening and hearing. And I think we feel that, but I think it's that we often feel like nothing happens because of that. And I think that's where a lot of the staff members kind of disengage from those conversations.
When I spoke to the board, because we just did like our contract, this is my issue. Everybody has their part. So I don't have a problem with that, but make me understand. When I'm speaking, I feel like you're making a decision for me. Make yourself more visible. Come to the building. Make yourself known. Let the students know who you are. Let us know who you are. When you're making a decision for me, make yourself visible because I'm here every day. I'm working with the student. Make yourself known at the building so we know who you are. So I'm not saying you personally,
Yeah, no.
whoever, but make yourself more visible because you are the people making more of the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make a decision on what the contract is or what's going to happen in the building, make yourself more known, be more visible so we all know who you are. Because I felt like if you're going to decide what my pay is going to be and how it's going to be or what all these policies are, I need to know more about who you are and what we're doing. Because if I'm screaming all the time, I'm not getting more of this or what's going on in the building, or this is a problem, I don't know who you are. And if I'm coming to the board to talk to you all the time and you're just like, whatever, that's a problem. That's a problem. I have a problem and we need to have more of a conversation. It's not a two-way thing, but you're just telling me, no, that's not gonna happen. I have to live. I still have to live. I have to pay all the money. I have to still come to work. I have to deal with the decision that you make on my behalf, So, and I get it. You can't do everything for everybody all the time. But have a conversation and give me a better understanding of what's going on. That's the issue that I have. I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's just, everybody's going to have a temper tantrum, but it should be a better understanding. You can't make decisions for everybody and nobody knows who you are. They can see a picture of you on the website,
Yeah. Right. I absolutely appreciate that because I think also it would help speaking as a board member, and I know that you're not all speaking as me. Trust me, I get it. If I can experience and see what your day-to-day is, it helps me understand that when we're making policy too.
Right.
Of, okay, yes, I can see the need because I was there, I saw the classroom was missing this, and that's essential for these teachers to have or something. If I'm just showing up twice a month for a couple hours a night, I'm just getting information from the principal, the assistant principal, the communication chair, the HR chair, getting more in. Now, I will say for me personally, I do that. So aside from being a board member, I also help mentor a business class here. So I'm in the school 2 to 4 times a month outside of my regular meeting during the school day. And it is nice as a board member to see the daily activity that's going on.
Mhm.
Now, unfortunately, it's only at North Campus because that's what the class is. So I don't get to experience it here. I shouldn't just make an assumption that it's the same
Mhm.
because it's not. I get that. But yeah, I think that's absolutely important that a board member should be more involved and do things to see the day-to-day if they're making policies and decisions at the top.
I think that goes back to like the barriers that we talked about. So where does the communication end or the collaboration begin, right? So like, it sounds like a lot of that is like your voice isn't being heard because the collaboration has ended, right? Or your voice isn't being heard, or where does that look like before that policy is being in place? It's like, where was I included?
Right.
My voice was all the way out here, and like, so how much impact and how much change would that be? If all of our voices were heard right before that policy.
Right.
And not just from a department head or something, right?
Yeah.
Like if there was a breakfast meeting with the entire communications department and we were voting or making policy on communications, does it make sense to have a half an hour where you and the rest of your team are coming in and talking to us?
Yeah.
And then we take that information, and then when we get it from the department head, we can say, okay, but that's not what we heard from the group that was actually saying
Yeah.
that.
There should be some minutes in there, like how much time
Yeah.
did you spend in this classroom?
Yeah.
How many minutes did you spend at this school with her job? Like, do you know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Were you at my job site? You have no idea what I did all day. So how are you gonna make a decision about what any of us did?
Yeah.
So how can you know what's best? What did she do in your morning meeting? Nobody knows what you did, so how can you make a decision on that? And like you said, you've been in the classroom, so you know. So that makes a big difference when you're making decisions,
Yeah.
you know?
When the kids are complaining that they can't get Wi-Fi and I'm on my own cell phone.
Like I can't come in and tell her, like, I have no idea what's going on in your classroom, so if I'm gonna tell you, you don't need any more materials. So how are you gonna make a decision? How many minutes?
Right. I'm just thinking like, once a quarter, board members should be at a different department, like for a breakfast, again, half an hour. And it's just, tell us, give us the information so that we can say that, yeah, we heard that same common theme throughout a couple of different departments. Where maybe the administration didn't bring that to us. They didn't see it as a problem. Because we're not hearing from the real end user of who's running the classroom. I would absolutely be open to something like that.
And I think something like that would be great because, again, I'm not like speaking on behalf of all of the staff here, but I know having taught here for a very long time, there are many teachers and staff members who feel that, as you said, that their voice isn't being heard. So they just kind of, as I said earlier, they disengage or they don't try. And I think we have had some really positive changes in our leadership who are trying so many different ways to, encourage that communication and build that connection. And I think even as a member of Equity Ambassadors, like our hurdle now is how do we get the people who disengaged like back in? And so I think something like what you're advocating, I think could be a really positive step because sometimes people, they just want to be able to say what they want to say.
And it'll be interesting because I think we've all been in a situation where you're thinking it, you haven't said it, and all of a sudden there's 3 people in the room thinking and saying the same thing, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm on board, I'm right aligned with them. So you have 4 people now that haven't said the same thing, but are all in agreement and don't know they're in agreement because they haven't had an open forum to sit and talk about it.
Right.
And that's where change then starts to come.
And they give us a lot of surveys, which is good.
Yeah.
But the downside to the surveys is they're very lengthy. There are many on staff who I don't know that they all take it seriously,
Right.
Just like with our students. So
You start to fade off at the end.
yeah,
Just
so
like,
I think a conversation is always a good way.
when you said survey, the first thing I thought of was cold. It's just you're looking at your computer screen and you're answering questions.
Yeah.
If you're having a dialogue with somebody that's more inclusive and accepting, and there is, again, a dialogue. It's not just a one-way street of sometimes, more than often, never,
I mean, I would even say, and I know they like the surveys because it gives quantitative data. I would say have the dialogue first and then maybe give a truncated version of the survey to collect.
The survey is a tool in the toolbox,
Yeah.
right? There's other tools in the toolbox that we should be using.
I was gonna say, and when you come out and see what great work everybody is doing,
Yeah.
it's another way for you to see, hey, this is what's working.
Yeah.
Let's try this. Because you got great people working. What else can we do? not just barriers, but wonderful things other children do.
And let's go ahead and let's move on to a future focused question. And we will wrap up with this question.
What about number 4?
I think that would be wonderful. What advice would you give to new teachers about creating inclusive spaces?
Can I ask you a question before we answer that question? Is that through your education process of becoming a teacher, administrator, whatever we roll it? Is this something that's ever on a curriculum through school, or are you just getting this when you're actually at the school that you're at?
Sometimes it comes at you that way.
Okay, that's what I would think.
You kind of get it when you get there, you know, like in my school, we didn't learn in college and everything like that. So I got it firsthand my first 2 years. And then I was just scrambled, you know, at the same time, trying to soak up every single thing, but also trying to be there for my kids, but also find my place as a young teacher, because I'm 26. And so it's hard to have all these older teachers, tenure teachers, and everything like that. Then you have like few young teachers. So it's like a little bit of a divide of trying to get that information. But as a new teacher, I would just say it's okay to be uncomfortable. As a new teacher, you feel like, okay, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta follow your tenure teacher, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be different and everything like that, and have your own identity, but also building relationships with people that you might not build a relationship with. Go to different perspectives, like a special education teacher with a secular teacher, and just building those relationships. So
Yeah, I would say, and I love what you said about don't be afraid to like be uncomfortable. And I would say that for any teacher. And as an older teacher, you're exactly right. There's sometimes that divide because that wasn't necessarily how we were taught to teach and how many of us taught for a long time. And so I know, like me personally, and when I've mentored teachers, I always say your classroom is your safe space. And it's the safe space for your students. And, you know, you can read all the stuff, you can watch all the videos, but at the end of the day, it's about creating those relationships with the kids that are in there for 40 minutes, an hour, whatever. And sometimes that means curriculum takes a back seat. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, because I think especially newer teachers, you feel so much pressure.
I am a career changer, so I spent 20 years of my career in healthcare and swept over to education. I never saw myself as an educator. I never saw myself as a student. I never saw myself in the curriculum. I never saw myself as any part of education. My parents, they didn't think in means of education, not that they belittled it, but they weren't like advocating for the future education or things like that, just based on how they had to live their own lives. So I feel like creating inclusive spaces for new teachers would be just welcoming students into your classroom, no matter what, and allowing them to see themselves in that classroom. Like think about those mirrors, think about the doors, think about those reflections that they're seeing every time that they enter your space. And we brought it up earlier about like code switching and making sure that they're ready for one class or ready for one teacher or ready for whatever is being asked of them during those times that they're with you. It's creating that space that makes them feel like they are welcome no matter what, or that space and that time you are spending with them is for them. And it's not for you to get through curriculum, right? It's for you and them to collaborate. It's for that growth to happen. I think that older teachers didn't really have that ideology that said like, hey, we need to see ourselves in the curriculum. They were like, this is the book, this is the man, this is the, you know. And so I think new teachers need to continue to just allow kids to be kids.
As a job coach, I just think when other coaches come around, I just think you just express your uniqueness and working with the student. Just listen to them and believe that they can do the job that you're showing them to do. Just show them the life skills and whatever they're doing, believe that they can do it. And if they're having trouble, then just navigate, try it a different way until they can get it. Just believe that they can do it until they show you anything different.
Help them believe in themselves faster. Yeah.
They can do it.
Right.
They can do it.
Again, it's not a mistake if you learn something from it.
Try it a different way.
The first day I walked into my mentor class, told everybody to write a number down. It was the end of the time where I was introducing myself, I said, all right, who remembers that number? And, they raised their hand. I said, does anybody have any idea what I was referring to? No, and it was a big number. It was like 2,350 or something. I said, well, that's how many times Thomas Edison failed before he actually invented the light bulb. Did he see any of those as a failure? No, it was just another step to get to what he was trying to accomplish. When I grew up, it was, you got the D or the F or whatever, and it was, it was this feeling of you failed, you didn't succeed, as opposed to somebody saying, okay, you were really close on this, but you didn't get this end of the formula. You had the first part.
Right.
Here's the second part. Let me help you get there, because you actually had a lot of it correct.
Yeah.
Instead of just seeing that it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that is a great way of teaching and communicating with kids and helping build them up.
And we want to thank you for being here with us today.
Before we close, we want to take a moment to say thank you from the heart to our guests, Jennifer, Kirsten, Bernadette, Asia, and Sean. Thank you for saying yes, for showing up, and for being so willing to share your honest thoughts and experiences with people you had only just met. That kind of openness and trust is a gift, and we don't take it lightly. We are truly grateful. We also want to extend our sincere appreciation to Lyons Township for hosting the 6th annual Building Inclusive Community Conference, a gathering that brought together nearly 200 participants in the shared pursuit of deeper understanding, empathy, and community. Events like this one remind us of what's possible when educators come together with open minds and open hearts.
And a very special thank you to Dr. Jennifer Rowe, whose vision and leadership make this conference happen year after year. If you're interested in learning more or joining the community yourself next year, we've included her contact information in the show notes, and we hope you'll reach out. Don't forget, the Roundtable protocol our guests used today is also linked in the show notes. We really do hope you'll bring it back to your colleagues and let it open up some meaningful conversation.
And to you, our listeners, thank you for being part of the New Teacher Talk family. Stay connected by following us on Instagram and Blue Sky at New Teacher Talk. And if this episode spoke to you, please pass it along to someone who needs to hear it. The more voices we bring into this conversation, the richer it becomes. Until next time, keep showing up for your students, for each other, and for yourself.